The Immortal returns to the city. Father and daughter reunion. Chapter 1. Return from another world. The streets of the city are busy with traffic, and the sun shines through the clouds, casting colorful light and shadow. Li Yuan wore a luxurious fairy robe and stepped into this familiar yet unfamiliar city with light steps. This is the place he left thousands of years ago, but now it is full of endless novelties and changes. However, his gaze did not stay on this bustling urban scene, but was firmly fixed on a conspicuous street corner. There, two thin figures were struggling in the mess. A pair of girls, dressed in ragged clothes, holding a few withered flowers in their hands, their eyes filled with endless sorrow. Li Yuan's heart was shaken, as if he was being pinched tightly by an invisible hand, rousing the uneasiness deep in his heart. Little rain, little dream, Li Yuan's voice echoed in the street, as if he was awakening from a long dream. The two girls looked up, their eyes full of confusion and confusion. In their eyes, this man with an immortal demeanor was a stranger, but he clearly recognized them. "You are my daughters." Li Yuan's tone was full of shock and disbelief. The tears in Xiao Yu's eyes finally fell, and she stretched out her hands tremblingly, as if she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Xiao Ming lowered his head silently, pursed his lips, and wiped away tears. "Dad." Xiao Yu's trembling voice was mixed with emotions of joy and sorrow, and she finally called out this long-lost title. Li Yuan was stunned for a moment, and then tears welled up on his face. For thousands of years, he had meditated in the fairyland countless times, but he had never shed a tear. But now, the call of his daughters made him so excited that he couldn't stop crying. "Dad, you are finally back." Xiao Ming sobbed. The two of them threw themselves into Li Yuan's arms and cried as if they had released her. 1,000 years of longing at this moment. I'm sorry. Li Yuan hugged his daughters. Tears mingled in the air and surged out like a tide. He regretted that he had not come back early, and that he had not protected them well. "Dad, don't cry. It'll be good if you come back." Xiao Yu wiped away the tears on Li Yuan's face, her smile full of concern for her father. Li Yuan took a deep breath and tried to calm down his excitement. He understood that now was not the time to repent, but to find out why his daughters had fallen to this point. "Tell Dad, what happened?" Li Yuan asked gently, his voice full of concern for his daughters. Xiao Meng sobbed and raised her head, trying to force out a smile. "Dad, it's like this." She began to talk about her arduous experience amid numerous difficulties and dangers. While Li Yuan listened to his daughter's stories, his heart became increasingly filled with rage. He is determined to seek justice for his daughters and make those who harmed them pay the price they deserve. This time, he would never leave them again. The Immortal returns to the city. Father and daughter reunion. Chapter 2. The truth behind the death of the family. Li Yuan sat in the simple hut where his daughters lived, listening to them describe the ups and downs of the family. The two sisters Xiao Ming and Xiao Yu took turns narrating, while Li Yuan listened with a heavy heart, and his brows were filled with unspeakable guilt. "Dad, Mom, she has been away from us for a long time," Xiao Yu said softly, with tears shining in her eyes. Li Yuan's eyes fell an old photo next to his daughters. It was a photo of him and his wife. His happy smile became deeper with the passage of time. Li Yuan was silent for a moment, then nodded slightly to signal Xiao Yu to continue. "At that time, a group of powerful enemies invaded our home. In order to protect us, my mother fought against the enemies risklessly. But in the end, she failed to survive." Xiao Meng sobbed, recalling the tragic scene. "Mom is a hero." Xiao Yu clenched her fists, with determination and admiration in her eyes. "She risked her life to protect us. We will always remember her." Li Yuan nodded silently, his heart filled with longing for his wife and regret for the irreparable past. "Dad, we have been living a hard life since then. After my mother left, Xiao Yu and I became lonely and helpless. Xiao Meng continued, we have tried to ask local immortal cultivators for help, but they were indifferent and even asked us to leave the place of cultivation. After all, we are not their relatives, and they have no obligation to help us. Xiao Yu's voice contained a hint of helplessness and wronged. When Li Zhuanyuan heard this, the anger in his heart rose again. He understood the rules and indifference among immortal cultivators, but he could not accept the cold looks and rejection his daughters had suffered later on. We could only make a living by selling flowers. Walking through the streets of the city every day, sometimes it was windy and rainy, and we had no choice but to go out, for fear that if we couldn't sell the flowers, we wouldn't be able to eat. Xiao Meng bit her lip, recalling the hardships of the past. Li Zhuanyuan listened to his daughter's narration, and the pain in his heart was like a knife. A trace of determination flashed in his eyes, determined to seek justice for his daughters. Dad, we have been waiting for you to come back, waiting for you to take us out of this painful place. Xiao Yu's eyes flashed with anticipation. I'm sorry, Li Zhuanyuan murmured in a low voice. He felt deeply sorry for his wife and daughters. He knew it was time to do something for them. No, Dad, you don't need to apologize. Xiao Ming grabbed Li Zhuanyuan's hand. You are back. That's enough. Li Zhuanyuan smiled slightly and gently picked up his daughters. From now on, I will accompany you and protect you, and I will not let you suffer any more injustice. The daughters' eyes flashed with emotion and relief. They knew that with their father's protection, everything would be different. Li Zhuanyuan is determined to seek justice for his wife and daughter. His heart is burning with unshakable determination, and this stage of urban immortal cultivators will become the battlefield for his revenge. He knew that in order for this family to find happiness again, all obstacles that hindered their progress must be eradicated. One night, as night falls, the neon lights of the city gradually light up. Li Zhuanyuan took his daughters out of the simple hut and embarked on a new journey. In his heart, the flame of revenge burns, while in the eyes of his daughters, there is a desire for the future and dependence on their father. A great and thrilling story unfolds quietly in the urban night. The immortal returns to the city. Father and daughter reunion, Chapter 3. The test of another world. Li Zhuanyuan and his daughters followed Chen Zhuangshao through the depths of the cultivation hallland, came to a spacious training ground. There are various facilities here, simulating various situations that cultivators may face. Chen Zhuangshao pointed to a huge void doorway in front and said, "This is your test place. After entering, you will face various challenges. Only if you successfully complete it can you get my help." Li Zhuanyuan nodded and held the fairy sword tightly. Xiao Meng and Xiao Yu were also ready, with a determined light in their eyes. A mysterious force surrounded them, and the entire void doorway began to ripple. Stepping into the void doorway, Li Zhuanyuan felt as if his body was traveling through time and space. A moment later, they appeared in a completely unfamiliar environment. This is an empty plain with colorful clouds floating in the sky, and strange flowers and plants growing on the ground. The surroundings are filled with rich ore, as if you are in a fairyland. However, this beautiful scene hides a huge test. This is part of another world. You need to go through a series of tests here and show enough strength and wisdom. Chen Zhuangshao's voice echoed in the air. Understood. Li Zhuanyuan responded solemnly. Following Chen Zhuangshao's order, a group of ferocious monsters suddenly appeared on the plain. They were huge in stature, bared their teeth and claws, and attacked Li Zhuanyuan and his party. The battle broke out instantly. Li Zhuanyuan wielded the fairy sword with extraordinary agility. Each sword hit the monster's vitals accurately. Xiao Meng and Xiao Yu released fire and frost spells respectively, instantly diffusing some of the monster's attacks. However, the number of monsters seemed endless, and they kept coming, causing the group of people to fall into a difficult battle. Li Zhuanyuan felt that his immortal power was constantly being consumed, and the monster's attack became more and more fierce. Dad, we seem to be having a hard time, Xiao Ming said with sweat dripping from his back. Don't give up. This is just part of the test. We must work together to defeat them, Li Yuan encouraged. Just as they were struggling in the battle, a powerful sound of thunder suddenly came from the sky. A figure flashing with thunder and lightning instantly descended on the battlefield and launched a powerful attack on the monsters. This mysterious helper is a cultivator wearing thunder armor, holding a thunder sword, and each sword can blast monsters into pieces. His appearance immediately reversed the situation on the battlefield. You continue to fight. I will help you, the thunder cultivator said firmly. When Li Yuan and his party saw the arrival of help, a glimmer of hope surged in their hearts. Working in coordination with the thunder cultivators, the monster beast's offensive was quickly suppressed. Thank you, Senior. Li Yuan bowed deeply to the thunder cultivator. You're welcome. We are both cultivators and should help each other, Thunder Cultivator said with a smile. With his help, Li Yuan and his party quickly repelled all the monsters. The Thunder Cultivator looked at Li Yuan and said with a smile, "You have considerable strength. Passing this level can be considered a success." Chen Zhuangshao also appeared on the battlefield immediately. He nodded in affirmation. "You have passed the first round of tests, but the next test will be more difficult, so you must be fully prepared." Li Yuan and his party returned to the cultivation hall and fell into deep thought. Although the first round of tests was difficult, they also realized that the path of a cultivator was not always smooth. In the test of another world, they must be more united and constantly break through their own limits. And in this strange and dangerous world, a more severe test is waiting for them. The Immortal returns to the city. Father and Daughter Reunion, Chapter 4, The Mystery of Another World. Li Yuan and his party rested for a while in the cultivation hall, preparing for the next test. Chen Zhuangshao led them to a quiet cultivation site, which is a place dedicated to spiritual tests. There was a faint fragrance all around, and the cultivators were immersed in meditation, feeling the sublimation of their souls. The next test is a spiritual journey. You need to face your inner fears, confusions, and challenges, Chen Zhuangshao said solemnly. Li Yuan and his daughters nodded to express their understanding. Following Chen Zhuangshao's guidance, they closed their eyes together and entered the realm of spiritual testing. During his spiritual journey, Li Yuan found himself in a desolate land, surrounded by a suffocating sense of loneliness. In the distance, a gloomy castle stood on the grass, looking extremely scary. "This is the place of fear deep in your heart. Face it bravely," Chen Zhuangshao's voice echoed in their hearts. Li Yuan took a deep breath and walked towards the castle. The castle door slowly opened, revealing a burst of dark light. Li Yuan walked into the castle and found that there was nothing inside except for the mist. Suddenly, he felt a gust of wind coming, and a shrill cry came from behind him. He looked back and saw a vague figure, the shadow of his wife. "Zhuan Yuan, why did you leave me?" His wife's voice echoed throughout the castle. "You left me alone. I am lonely and scared. Why do you let me face all this alone?" Li Yuan was shocked, as if he had returned to that moment 1,000 years ago. His wife stood in the mist, her eyes filled with endless sadness. I'm sorry, Li Yuan confessed in a low voice and tried to walk towards his wife. However, the figure of his wife gradually became farther and farther away, and finally disappeared into the mist. Li Yuan felt powerless, as if all the choices and partings came to his mind again. Chen Zhuangshao's voice sounded again. "This is the guilt and pain deep in your heart. Facing it head-on is also a step forward. We are also about to enter the inner test." Xiao Meng and Xiao Yu looked at Li Yuan and followed him firmly into the maze of the soul. In the spiritual test, Xiao Meng and Xiao Yu each faced the fear and confusion deep in their hearts. Xiao Meng saw a lonely figure, herself, standing in the endless darkness, feeling endless loneliness. "Why should you leave me alone? Without relatives or warmth?" Xiao Meng whispered to himself, trying to find the answer deep in his heart. Xiao Yu saw a lost self. She was in the boundless fog, with no direction around and no idea where to go. "I lost myself and couldn't find my way home." Xiao Yu's voice was full of confusion. Li Yuan was anxious in his heart. He saw his daughters working hard to move forward through spiritual tests and facing the shadows in their hearts. All this made him understand more clearly that the path to cultivation is not only about strength, but also requires a firm heart. Suddenly, the state of mind changes, and a bright light flashes. Li Zhuanyuan and his daughters seem to have traveled through time and space and returned to the practice ground of the cultivation hall. You succeeded, Chen Zhuangshao said with a smile. Passing the test of the soul also shows your inner tenacity, but the test on the road to cultivation, it's far from over, and the journey ahead is even more difficult. Li Zhuanyuan and his daughters took a deep breath, knowing that the next test would be even more severe. During their journey to another world, they must constantly break through their own spiritual shackles and face greater challenges. And all this is to strive for more power and a better future for the family.